You know, the great Dan Curtis of Dark Shadows fame, of horror film fame, always directed and produced some very interesting stuff. And the movie we're talking about has been a request from one of our followers of the channel. It's called, in many ways, The Curse of the Black Widow, also called Beware the Curse of the Black Widow, also called as Love Trap. Now, a mass Tony Francioso, Donna Mills, Sid Caesar, Patty Duke, Vic Morrow, and June Allison. Now, it debuted on ABC, a Disney movie produced through Disney, September 1677, as released in 79 as Love Trap. Now, in the plot, the past 4 years, Elliot has been terrorized by a series of mysterious murders, in which several men have been found dead with huge puncture wounds in their chests. The latest happens when P.I. Mark Higby is visiting a bar. A dark-haired woman with a German accent needs help with her car, and one of Higby's friends goes out to help her. The woman makes a pass at him, but is turned down. Minutes later, the man is found dead. Now, Mark does some digging and finds out that Lieutenant Gully Conti, who is leading the investigation, knows who the culprit is, but is covering up details. He soon finds out why. All the victims have had their bodily fluids sucked out of them, and the wounds are filled with spider venom. Each time a mysterious woman named Valerie Stephan was in the area. Gully suspects that the twins, Leah and Laura Lockwood, are somehow involved. Leah hires Mark, concerned about the police focusing on her. It turns out that she dated all the men who have died so far. Now, Mark eventually gets in touch with a former bartender who saw one of the murders, who tells him at least one man was killed by a man-sized Black Widow spider. Checking further, he finds out that Lee and Laurie's father died in a plane crash several years ago, and one of the girls was nearly bitten to death by spiders. Marks finds out that the plane landed in an old vineyard owned by the Lockwoods and meets an aging Native American who found the girls. The Native American says that according to an old legend, some women who were affected by an ancient curse passed through the female line. Now, during the full moon, these women turn into giant spiders in times of stress, kill their victims, encase them in webbing, and feed on them. Bad time of the month for everybody. These women have a red hourglass-shaped birthmark on their abdomens, similar to those found on Black Widow spiders. They are practically indestructible in spider form. The only thing that can kill them in that form are fire. The twin who is bitten by the spiders is the one affected by the curse. Now, Mark calls Laura and finds out that Lee is on her way. Laura tells Lee is the one who was bitten, and Mark tells her to get out as fast as she can. As Laura is in the midst of packing, she suddenly has violent convulsions and visions of two of the men who died. It turns out that Laura is really the killer. She has long suffered from multiple personality disorder. Valerie is an expression of her feelings of inadequacy compared to Lee. Valerie is the only one who knows how to use Laura's curse. It turns out that Valerie has made several advances towards Lee's boyfriends, and when he turns her down, she turns into a spider and kills them. The only other people who know the secret are their mother and their former nanny, Olga. The mother has been in a catatonic state since seeing Valerie kill Lee's fiancé. Now, Lee arrives and finds her mother in a panic. Suddenly, Valerie walks in, taunts Lee and her mother by telling her about the things Laura never had the courage to say to Lee. She also talks about how Lee stole Laura's boyfriend, Gianni. She explains that Laura tried to win him back by seducing him, and unfortunately, Gianni ended up raping Laura and getting her pregnant. This caused Valerie to retaliate and kill Gianni, who was what their mother witnessed. She was babbling about Laura killing an Italian boy when Lee found her, and it made her go crazy. Now, Laura then turns to a spider. Horrified, her mother falls out the window to her death, and then Valerie encases Lee in webbing. And this is all in 92 minutes. Olga arrives minutes later and realizes Laura has to die. She goes to an old farmhouse to find Laura cowering on a stall. Laura admits that Valerie killed her mother and hurt Lee as well. As Olga pulls out a pistol, Valerie takes over, turns to a spider, and kills Olga. Now, Mark finds the place deserted and goes to the farmhouse. Again, if you can keep up, a lot going on here. He finds Lee alive but terrified. Just then, Valerie arrives in spider form. Mark empties his pistol into her, but to no avail. He hurls a lantern at Valerie, and she catches fire. Leah and Mark escape, while Valerie sets the farmhouse ablaze as she trashes about on fire. The farmhouse burns to the ground, and the police consider the ordeal to be over. Now, sometime later, Mark is at Lee's beach house for dinner, while Jennifer is shown playing on the beach with her dog. Lee explains that Jennifer is adjusting with living with her, though she still has occasional nightmares, but with diminishing frequency. She has returned to school and is making new friends. She tells Mark that although Jennifer does not really look like her, sometimes she reminds her of Laura. Jennifer asks to go out for one more swim before dinner, at which time she turns and waves to Mark and Lee on the balcony, revealing a red hourglass-shaped birthmark on her abdomen, the same one that Laura had, indicating that Laura was her mother and that she was inherited the curse of the Black Widow. Again, Tony Francioso as Mark Higbee, Vic Morrow Lieutenant Conte, Donna Mills and Leah Lockwood, Patty Duke as Laura Lockwood, Valerie Stefan, credited here, of course, her married name, Patty Duke Aston, June Lockhart as Mrs. Lockwood, June Allison as Olga, great performances, Sid Caesar as Laszlo Cosart, the great Jeff Corey as Aspo Max Gale of Barney Miller fame as Ragsdale, Ross Kelly of Happy Days fame as Flaps, Michael Lalano as Carlo Lindsay. You see the big European influences here. Brian O'Brien as Oaks, Tracy Curtis as Gymnast, Irene Kagan as Rita, Bruce French as Summers, Mary Gorman as Sophie, Elizabeth Gray as Charlene, H.P. Haggerty as Mary and Popeye Sykes, Crofton Hardester as Gianni, the bad person of the piece, Howard Honig as Harkard, Rosanna Locke as Jennifer, and Robert Natter as Hank, the morgue attendant. Now, again, did very good ratings. I don't remember being broadcast in Canada, but it did quite good ratings. It was so popular, it was like being broadcast on the title of it was also called The Curse of the Black Widow, but some people were think it was too long. Now, although it did get a mixed response from critics during its original broadcast, with some criticizing the film's inadequate special effects and script, Videohound's Golden Movie Retriever Jim Craddock rated the film a mixed score of 2 out of 4 bones. Mick Martin and Marsha Porter awarded the film 2 out of 4 stars, criticizing the film's script as being recycled in his book Television Fright Films of the 1970s. David Deal commended the film's outstanding cast, cinematography, and old-fashioned sense of fun. Deal went on to note, while the film was reasonably entertaining, its meandering story and forced sense of legitimacy to his overall success. But many people enjoyed it because it was like one person called it the Love Boat meets Dark Shadows, because you had all these B and A- level actors with up-and-coming actresses like Donna Mills, and the film was not without its supporters. However, Kevin Bignot from AllMovie called the film a wonderful, cheesy TV movie of the week. Fraser A. Sherman felt that the film was reasonably well made and favorably compared to the director's previous work, The Night Stalker, while also criticizing some of the curse's over-the-top plot elements, like what type of spider and why and all the stuff like this. Now, a lot of people have only given this 2 stars out of 4, but I know people that have seen it, and it would have been re-released a second time. I really think that we're looking at a plot here of some sort, like a mini-series or an expansion. But the great Donna Mills always brought the effort, and technically Donna Mills was doing the parts that Patty Duke was getting too old for, so that's the connection for me. But Vic Morrow, I've always appreciated his hard-working ethic. But Sid Caesar, I mean, it's quite a weird mix. You never expect to see Sid Caesar in this type of horror movie. So, I mean, evil spiders sucking the body fluids out of men that deserve it. A very, very feminist-laden Dan Curtis movie, but in almost of Dan Curtis's productions, the women were very strong. If you remember Dark Shadows, even though the women had their issues with Barnabas, they were also always portrayed quite strong. You know, Joan Bennett's character and everything else. But Dan Curtis, you knew back then with a Dan Curtis production, it was going to be fun because everything he did reminded what he did before. It could be Jekyll or Hyde, it could be The Night Stalker, because the Dan Curtis production, a B movie, but with A movie sensibilities, and that's why people loved him. And he was always doing something, and he got away from this later on with his straight-ahead miniseries work, War of Remembrance, and all that. Anyway, for me, 2.5 out of 4. And late at night, if you ever see it on an old streaming network, I'm not sure if it streams on Tubi or anything else because it's an ABC property, but to see all these top actors of the 60s and 70s in this type of movie with up-and-coming actresses was quite interesting. Thanks for listening. Bye.